And welcome to the last day here at Productronica. I'm delighted to have Philip Stoten join me for the show wrap-up. Nice to see you, Philip.
Good to see you, Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a hugely busy week. I think Productronica's returned to its old levels, as
Its
it were.
old self pre-COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been an extremely exciting week. So let's start off with what were your main takeaways?
So I spent quite a lot of the week doing some CEO interviews and kind of trying to set the scene of what's going on in the market. And when I look at the EMS market, particularly here in Europe, there's a sense that expected downturn, that softening in orders has started to come through. They've been waiting for it quarter after quarter, and they've had good, strong quarters, and it hasn't happened. Starting to happen a little bit now, and I think that's aggravated by the fact we have this huge inventory bubble that's worked its way through the supply chain. So they've been struggling to get their inventory down, but part of getting their inventory down has meant that inventory has gone to their customers, so their customers' orders are softening a bit. So there's some issues there. That's having an impact on cash flow. That's having an impact on growth. So my kind of sense is that 24 feels like, for the EMS industry at least, it will be a fairly level year, a fairly flat year with not too much growth. And in terms of consolidation, the consolidation we do see will be opportunist rather than scale and strategic.
Right. It's interesting. I mean, certainly here in Central Europe, in Germany, in these areas, it has been a bit soft these last couple of months. There's no doubt about that.
I think underlying trends are strong.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Because, I mean, there are obviously signs of some companies, as I mentioned before, like Samsung investing in the memory module market very heavily for a spike they expect by the middle of next year. So I'm guessing they've got some data to back that up, and it's a good leading indicator, as it were. But yeah, I can certainly see that, and I think the recession, as we talk about it, is looking at this stage like it's going to be a mild one, as opposed to something that's a 2008 or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's of a completely different scale, and I do think there's an underlying trend that's very positive in Europe. I do think there is a bit of a manufacturing renaissance going on because of geopolitics and a desire to have more secure supply chains, and generally more secure supply chains are shorter supply chains. Stuff like the CHIPS Act is having a positive impact. It's difficult to see which parts of the supply chain that'll touch, and it'll obviously take some time to work its way through. But I think, the underlying trends are very good. There are plenty of EMS companies that have got good, strong order books, and particularly the top probably 20 or so in Europe look like very strong, good performing companies that will be able to weather a flat year and maybe see it as an opportunity to catch up and focus a bit more on manufacturing excellence and efficiency through the company. Right.
Well, because I think certainly one of the big themes I've picked up on this week is there's a huge amount of interest in ESG and sustainability. I mean, it really has risen to the top of the pile in terms of what companies are looking at closely. It's affecting their share price and investors for the big companies that are listed. But even the smaller ones are looking at ways of being able to be greener, and more sustainable, reduce their carbon footprint, reduce their energy.
And there's a level of regulation on that, and the idea of Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3. I think there are some really interesting examples. I always worry about greenwash, so I try to dig a bit deeper and ask the difficult questions. I was impressed when I was on the ASMPT booth that 90% of their booth is reusable and recyclable, so they've actually thought about it in terms of their marketing. And when I think of Productronica, I tend to think, well, that's a scary amount of waste. It's not necessarily a sound show.
Yeah.
But they've actually taken that on board, and I know other companies have done that too. So that's encouraging. It's definitely important for the EMS guys, and it's important that those providing them with capital equipment and services do it in a way that is going to reduce the amount of energy they use, footprint, all those things that impact them environmentally.
Right, and part of doing that sustainability is also, reducing the carbon footprint in terms of not building something at the other side of the world and shipping it, across the ocean. It really needs to be manufactured closer to the point of
consumption.
Consumption.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's been a big driver this week. drilling down to the equipment level, I saw quite a few new pieces of equipment. I mean, Modis had a really interesting inspection system, which was extremely fast and double-sided. And they've got an interesting business model because they're not just building these inspection systems, but they've also got an OEM model where they're partnering with companies in India and in China, where they're actually building the machine under license.
Okay.
And Modis, the German company, is only just sending the head, essentially, you know, the important part.
Which makes sense in terms of shipping and environmental considerations as well. So that's a nice message.
Yeah. So Tagarno came out with I think one of the best designed microscopes I've ever seen. It looked very Apple-esque, almost in its design and its function.
Very good.
That was good. Let me see. Science Scope came out with quite a few things. They came out with a stencil inspection and washing system that is quite unique. It involves a couple of different machines, but we made a video on that, so we'll be able to catch up on that.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the most interesting pieces of software I saw came from ASUS. They brought out something called a performance monitor.
Yeah.
Now, as you and I both know, very often when the production manager's called in by the C-suite guys, they say, how are we doing? We say, well,
operational efficiency. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, you know, we've got 97% first pass yield. Well, we must be doing well. But of course, the machines are sitting idle half the time. So this new performance monitor system charts the average time that your process is taking and tells you the actual time. So if it starts to drift 1 or 2 seconds, you know there's something wrong immediately. So the operators can get onto it a lot faster.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, and I actually think it's a great time to be ASUS.
Yes.
I think it's a great time to be a company that provides conveyors and that automation equipment that maybe 10 years ago we didn't get particularly excited about. But there's a super strong desire to automate and become more efficient through the factory. And part of that is the shortage of talent. So I think it's a really good time to be in that space.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But I mean, this is their first foray into software properly. Well, I'm sorry, they had the line monitor systems they had before. Yeah. But I mean, at this level, and I think it's really, really interesting. So, as I say, it's been a great week. It's been hugely busy.
Yeah, it's been really good, and I'm always encouraged. I mean, it's great to come to these shows again after the break and see old friends like yourself and talk to people. But it's good to see the industry and the suppliers to the industry being innovative, and they're in pretty good shape. They're bringing new products to market. Those products are hitting the spot, and people are showing a lot of real interest. So I think it's a good time for the European industry. As I say, I'm kind of labeling 2024 as the year of efficiency. I know Mark Zuckerberg already did that about 2023, but I think this is a different kind of efficiency. I think, if we can take the pause in order growth and use that opportunity to look inward and focus on manufacturing excellence and, as you say, regroup a bit, I think it will push us out when the market starts to grow again, maybe later next year or early 2025. It'll mean we're in great shape for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as I say, when I say it's been a busy week, we did have a clip somewhere of showing the mad rush in the morning. There you go. As all the people come into the show. I mean, it really is.
It was flat out on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. So that's about it from us here in Munich. I want to thank our audiences that have been joining us this week. And I want to thank Philip, obviously, for coming in and talking to us today. And my final message is, of course, that Productronica is not always all about the business. There is a bit of fun here too. And we're going to play you out with a couple of clips from some of the rather wild parties that have been held here at Productronica this week. Until then, goodbye.